He's here. Now broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Bunker Bob. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is great to be with you, fellow conservatives, for McClendon Chisholm. Yes, this is your own Bunker Bob, Robert Steinhagen here, and I am thrilled to be with you today. And it is so great to have you with us, to have you with me. And as you know, we've been focusing on. Too late now. We've been focusing on all of the misinformation that's been going around in our community of McClendon Chisholm, and I realize that I am the greatest threat to the liberal left in the city of McClendon Chisholm. As World War II bomber pilots used to say, you know you're over the target when you start taking flak, and it's great for me to be able to take flak for the conservatives and for those who really do desire to protect our wide open spaces, our keep the tax rate low, end welfare to neighbors of McClendon Chisholm, uphold city ordinances, and restore transparency to our city, which is something that is being robbed from us if the left in McClendon Chisholm achieves what they're trying to achieve. Now, I opened today's show with basically stealing from the great one, Mark Levin. That's his opening line for his show. And if you're a conservative, no doubt you know who Mark Levin is. He's on 820 AM. He comes on after Rick Roberts, who comes on after Rush Limbaugh. Yes, I'm a ditto head as well. Mark Levin has been one of my favorite radio personalities, but more than that, he's also an incredible author and writer, a brilliant mind. He's written Men in Black about the Supreme Court and intellectual morons about the professors that infiltrate our university system, and how the left is basically slowly ingratiating itself inside of the American psyche and creating misinformation to really draw out their political agenda. And they're doing it very seductively. And one of the most important facets of the liberal left is by taking control, they're focusing very hard on local small city elections, ones that are not supposed to be focused on political ideology, political parties. These are supposed to be nonpartisan election, but as you know, this election has 6 individuals, all of whom claim to be Republicans, and all of them have demonstrated by their voting record to be Republican. In fact, neither David Day nor Scott Turnbull nor Adrian Balcom has ever voted in a Democrat primary. Can we say the same thing about William Dahl and Lorna Kippett? Well, we can't say because, of course, William Dahl is from California and Lorna Kippett is from the North. We don't know. They have not released their voting records on their side. I do know that Trudy Wassner has voted Republican, so I'm not challenging that. But what we talk about on this show, what I talk about on this show are the things that I can prove. And when I can't prove something, I will tell you. I don't create things out of whole cloth. But the left, the liberal left that we're talking about, that I'm talking about and bringing before you in these shows, this is the way they propagate their arguments based upon baseless lies, half-truths, misinformation, because they understand that they cannot win any argument based upon the merits of the argument, based upon the facts, empirically based upon what is evidently true, what is apparent. They can give half-truths. They do that all the time. Remember this, those of you who are with me are very likely you've seen this video, the knife-wielding man video, which is what drew you to this program in the first place. And why did I do this? I did it so that it would demonstrate as a demonstration of what the left is doing currently, what they've done in the past, to try and fool you, to deceive you into believing things that are not true by giving half of the information. I want to be very clear about something. One of the propagandists on the left is trying to create a misperception to those in the Sonoma Verde community that I am somehow, some way, arguing that those in Sonoma Verde are leftist, which is absolutely not true. In fact, I make it very clear. If you've ever watched the knife-wielding man video, which, by the way, if you haven't, then I'm not sure what you can argue until you've seen it, because in the knife-wielding man video, I articulate the difference between a conservative and a liberal. I define. Here's how I'm defining a conservative and a liberal, and I also then add to that the definition of a leftist. Now, a liberal is not necessarily a leftist. In fact, I've received emails from liberals, from social liberals who are pro-abortion, pro-gay rights, pro all of these the things that I as a conservative, I'm a social conservative and a fiscal libertarian, which is far right of the far right, right? Because I believe in fiscally responsible government. I don't believe in anarchy. Libertarians are not anarchists. Libertarian points of view when it comes to fiscal responsibility is that the constraints be placed on government, not on the people, and that taxation only be levied for things that provide the greatest benefit to the most people at the least cost. That's the purpose of government when it comes to providing things for government. So I'm very specific in how I define the difference between a liberal and a conservative. And then in addition to that, because I talk about leftists all the time, don't I? I'm talking, and when I use the term leftist, I'm referring to specific individuals based upon their rhetoric. And let me show you or remind you what the definition is of a leftist, so that there's no misunderstanding. This is how I define a McClendon-Chisholm leftist: one who propagates and or advances misinformation, half-truths, and or outright lies to slander, demonize, and or vilify those whose efforts or actions align with or mirror the beliefs of McClendon-Chisholm conservatives. They are essentially stand in opposition to conservatism at every level and will do whatever it takes to win their point of view. And so the leftists in our community are liberal when it comes to the liberal ideology of bigger government, higher taxes, even though, and here's the thing, and those of you who are liberal, what's interesting is I've had several of you notify me and say by email and say, hey, look, I'm liberal, but I actually agree with your point of view. But it sounds like Lorna Kippett and Trudy Wassner and William Dahl, they believe the conservative point of view too. But remember, what have I been doing every day for the last 2 weeks now? I have been focusing on facts. I have been focusing on action over words, over rhetoric. Because if you judge people by their actions and not their words, well then, I have demonstrated conclusively that there's only 3 candidates in this race for city council. That is David Day, Scott Turnbull, and Adrian Balcom, who are truly conservative, who truly stand for the principles that I have laid out. And what are those? And what are those principles? I said it at the very beginning of the show: keeping the tax rate low, protecting our open spaces, and welfare to neighbors of McClendon-Chisholm. What do I mean by that? Ending the welfare to neighbors of McClendon-Chisholm. Most of you know already that we are providing the funding for fire protection services to 2/3 of the fire district. The city of McClendon-Chisholm makes up 1/3, right? More than half of all fire calls, emergency calls, go outside of our city. So we are funding it. You and me, the taxpayers of McClendon-Chisholm, we're funding the fire protection services for those in our unincorporated area of the fire district who contribute absolutely nothing. So as a conservative, I'm tired of paying welfare, which is what's happening to those neighbors of McLean and Chisholm. And as I talked about yesterday on the show, when I was a member of city council, when I was mayor, when I was a member of city council, when I first got on city council, I offered the McLean and Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department the opportunity to, because I'm a professional fundraiser, that's what I do for a living, I offered them $10,000 of my own money to set up a fundraising campaign so that we could begin to try and reach out to those in the unincorporated area so that they could then become engaged in the solution of funding fire protection services. Of course, the fire chief at that time, as it's a matter of record, said, well, we're too busy. We don't have time to fundraise. Despite the fact that 77% of fire departments in the city in the state of Texas are volunteer fire departments, and 92% of those raise money from in a not-for-profit way. They solicit funds for people to give generously. But the MCVFD, Robert Jones, the fire chief, said, we are too busy. Remember, the MCVFD averaged less than one call per day. They averaged one structure fire per year. So, but they were too busy. So when I talk about bringing solutions, I put my action over their rhetoric any day. And so when you hear rhetoric online by leftists who present falsehoods, who present outright lies, it is important to consider both sides. Today, I want to reach out to those of you who live in Sonoma Verde, because you are a voting bloc that the left has put a concerted effort into influencing. If you notice on social media, you cannot find an alternative point of view on social media in Sonoma Verde. Why? Because they have locked it down. You have the administrators on Nextdoor, on Facebook, on their FU McLean and Chisholm group, and the McLean and Chisholm Friends and Family. These Facebook groups are designed specifically to propagate lies. Like I said, leftists are focusing on local elections because what they're trying to do is they're trying to create a ground up push. They're trying to agenda. They're trying to further their agenda through a ground up effort for a grassroots effort, I should say, to instill in people the idea that government needs to do more. And of course, as a conservative, I've always said that government is not the solution to our problems. Government is too often the problem. Now, let's not forget that those of you who are in Sonoma Verde, you're here. You are in a community that was made possible because of what I consider to be underhanded, under-the-table deals with former elected officials who made deals with developers to violate our city's 1.5 acre minimum standard. As I said when I was a member of city council, as I wrote, as I put on public record, when I was on city council and mayor, even in my State of the City addresses, I emphasize the fact that it is what it is. We can't turn back the clock. That's not my point in bringing that up. And I realize that some people are a little unsettled by me bringing these points up. And the only reason you should focus on this is because the same people who deceived the citizens of McLean and Chisholm to make it possible for Sonoma Verde to come into our city are the same people who are perpetuating the same lies, the same leftists, by the way, who are perpetuating the same lies about conservative candidates David Day, Scott Turnbull, and Adrian Balcom. That is important. Understanding where the message is coming from, the hypocrisy that comes alongside them, as I have articulated daily in these broadcasts. And so I think it's important that we take these things into consideration. Don't forget, these are the same people who put our city into long-term debt without the knowledge or consent of the citizens of McClendon Chisholm. They made City Hall possible because they did an end around. They made it impossible for citizens to know what was going on and to have any say in it. They did not allow the citizens to vote on the bond that built our City Hall, which, by the way, you got to think about a couple of things. First of all, I want to remind you of a couple of facts about City Hall. City Hall is a 5,000 square foot building that cost $2.125 million, even though they said it would cost $1.5 million. And the reason they said it would cost $1.5 million is because the brick on the building, that was donated. The roof, half of the roof, we got it for half price. The flooring, the furniture, the furniture and the appliances and the cabinetry, we got it half price. The furniture was we received at 25 cents on the dollar. So a 5,000 square foot facility, 5,000 square feet, $1.5 million is what they told us it would cost. And then at the last minute, they made it $2.125 million. 5,000 square foot facility. How big is your house? Now I realize a commercial building is going to be, by nature, is going to be more expensive. I get that, but think about it. Go look in Kingsbridge, which I think has our most expensive homes, and go look at the most expensive home in Kingsbridge. Is it $1.5 million? Is it anywhere close to $1.5 million? I don't think so. Maybe it is. Well, how big is that house and what kind of amenities are there? We have a 5,000 square foot City Hall building that costs $2.125 million. And guess what the Rockwall County Appraisal District has appraised it at? Go look, $800,000. The same people who made that decision are now part of this leftist effort to convince you that the real conservatives, the people who are true conservatives, Scott Turnbull and Adrian Balcom, who have proven by their actions that they're conservative, they're trying to tell you that they're not. They're trying to convince you that David Day, they're going so far with their empty rhetoric as to they are asserting as empirical fact, falsely, that David Day and Scott Turnbull are registered Democrats. And if you've watched the last two shows, I've demonstrated conclusively that that's an impossibility, seeing as how we don't register as Republican or Democrat, but more importantly, neither one of them have ever voted in a Democrat primary. Can we say the same about William Dahl? No. Can we say the same about Lorna Kippett? No. Why? Because we don't have their records, and they have refused to present those records. If they're so open and transparent, who are they really? Look at their actions, not their words. So I received an email from a supporter, from a viewer, that I wanted to share with you today, that I think is really a good example, and it really kind of spurred on why I wanted to talk to those of you in Sonoma Verde. I've got a message for you. I want to explain to you why the true conservatives, why David Day, Scott Turnbull, and Adrian Balcom are your real friends. And I realize if you listen to all of the rhetoric, all of the bluster that's going out there, they are preying on your emotion. And just, I challenge you to find any evidence of fact that is true. Any. Because they don't present evidence. They just say, this is true. When someone looks at you, when a sales guy looks at you and goes, hey, you can trust me, it's true. Well, do you really want to trust that person? If they say, well, everyone's saying it, well, we've talked about that. We've highlighted the fallacy behind that. Just because everyone says something's true doesn't make it true. And who is everyone, by the way? Everyone happens to be the left in the city of McClendon Chisholm. Let me share with you this email from a viewer. It says, and by the way, this viewer received an email from the show that because they wanted to get connected. So they received a link that they could share with others that provided the knife wielding man video and a kind of an update on what is happening, what I'm doing why I'm back in the public eye again, and why I've started this show. And so this is what this viewer is they're forwarding that email to their friends, to their neighbors, to people that they care about. They're sending it to people who actually think. And here's what they write: sinister or dumb luck. It's hard to figure out those that oppose the facts and truth. They are hard to pin down, and they don't really care if what they say or do makes sense, as long as it incites a reaction, whether it instills fear, provokes anger, or misguided righteous indignation. The biggest pawns in their revenge and comeback playbook are the newest residents of McClendon Chisholm. Of particular use have been the neighborhood of Sonoma Verde. These new neighbors have been quite literally framed. Force-fed fear and deceit, then herded to the polls to vote as directed. If no one has figured it out, this was an intentional strategy. An easy target, many voters, small lots, quick enough to stroll door to door and tell people they are losing money and their house will probably catch fire. Why, and by the way, what is that a reference to? Remember, on yesterday's show, I focused on a post by one of the leftists in McClendon Chisholm who said that the value of our homes are going down, and I highlighted the fact I would like to see anyone show me their county appraisal district, their appraisal that they received, that you should have received by now. I'd like for anyone to show me where your property value has gone down. And what does he say? He says it's because we've diminished fire protection. And what did I do? I highlighted the fact that not only the fact that before we had a volunteer fire department that was providing 12-hour service from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Now we have 24-hour, 7-day-a-week fire protection service for the city of McClendon Chisholm. That's not diminished fire protection. That's enhanced fire protection. So that's the reference there. They go on. People who have none or very, very little backstory on state of affairs in McClendon Chisholm's past, which is true, and which is what I'm trying to do, is educate you on the realities of what's going on. Those who do not know their history are destined to repeat it. That is absolutely true. And as busy as we all are, I get why we really don't have time or the inclination to know what is the backstory on this city. But that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give you a sense of how we got where we are. They go on. People who were not here when the hidden Sonoma Verde and the Triple Creek deals were made. I've done a show on that. It's not a lot of people haven't looked at that, which I'm surprised, because this gives you a backstory, and it's going to be why I'm going to talk about why the conservatives, the three true conservatives, are your best friends. That are not aware of who is happy, they go on, to use your tax dollars without your consent to fund their legacy. Yes, their names are on City Hall, by the way. They see the City Hall, but don't know how it came about or what exorbitant and puzzling cost to build it was. I just kind of talked about that. They go on. They hear a one-sided narration rather than what the fire department issues really and actually were. Same with budgets and legal fees. No checking sources, just noise and deflection. Well, no more. They write. The information is being put forth and brought into light for all to witness. That's this show. Thanks to the guardians of right opposing the minions of might. Thank you for those words, because I appreciate that. They conclude, I was driving down 205 and 34 to some friend's house on Terrell on this fresh spring day, this was yesterday, by the way, just enjoying the country scenery today. I was thinking how nice it is in the rural areas, that it used to be a rare treat to drive down a country road, a dream that we now live every day. Don't let it slip away. That's absolutely right. This supporter is expressing what I have been saying. So let me just talk to those of you who are part of Sonoma Verde. I just want you to just hear me out. And by the way, I just want to tell you, I appreciate the fact that you're taking time. I know that if you're watching this, you're a rarity, because the liberal left in your community does not want you to see this show. This is an affront to their ability to essentially bamboozle and hoodwink those who are in Sonoma Verde. Think about a couple of facts. Number one, what I have been trying to do when I was in city council and mayor is prevent the Triple Creek development from moving forward, even though the development agreement has been signed and approved. The reason it hasn't moved forward is because it requires that a golf course be put in before the development can begin. Now, why is that a problem? If you're in Sonoma Verde, you got to remember the fact that you're in a development that's going to put 1,100 homes on about 520 something acres, and so if you think about your community, just think about. I know that they're starting to build the next phase. They're putting that road in, so you're thinking about that. And you're thinking about where you are as far as build out. I think you're less than halfway done, right? And you think about the traffic on 205, which is a nightmare. And then you think about in about 8 to 10 years, the state of Texas is going to start widening 205. And if you think you're suffering now, you will hearken back to the times like today, like now, when traffic really wasn't that bad. Then imagine that if Triple Creek were to move forward, that if one of the three leftists and they're all leftists because they are espousing, false information that is empirically untrue. And that's what I've been doing on this show, is showing you how untrue it is. But imagine what will happen if Triple Creek moves forward, because what you're talking about is 1,867 homes. Sonoma Verde is 1,100 homes. 1,867 homes on 409 acres. If you think that money is not the main issue in this election, think again. The value of your home is really in proportion to the what's on the market, the available properties, the available houses that are out there, right? And so the more houses that are flooding the market, the less value your home is going to have. Think about if Sonoma Verde were the one location inside our city that had small lots, high density. Think how valuable, and your resale value. Think about how good that will be for you and the community, because people will want to be a part of Sonoma Verde. But if you've got another development that is Triple Creek, and think about one of the reasons why you moved into Sonoma Verde, right? Wasn't it because of our low tax rate? Why didn't you move to Royce City? Their tax rate is what, 63 cents? Ours is 15 cents. Why would you want to move into Royce City or Fate or Heath? The reason McLennan Chisholm is such a jewel, such a find, is because we still have a fundamentally rural area that you can enjoy. You can still hear the coyotes, can't you, at night? You can see wildlife around you, and that's what we're trying to protect. Our wide open spaces to maintain the 1.5 acre minimum per home site standard. If you notice, none of the other candidates have established that they will under no circumstance violate that 1.5 acre standard. Lorna Kippett, her campaign propaganda, as I highlighted a few shows ago, says that she wants to keep large lots, but she doesn't define what a large lot is. Sonoma Verde has large lots. That's how they're advertised. Large lots. You can go to have a large lot or a small lot. Well, what's a large lot? Is that an acre? No. You don't have acre lots. So the term large lot is a very relative term, and it is a half-truth that I am telling you right now is designed to mislead and deceive you into believing that they really do want to protect our wide open spaces and more rural lifestyle. They don't. I realize that that those of you, there are some of you in Sonoma Verde who do want more density. You think that if with more density, you're going to see lower tax rate. And I'd love for you to show me a city where that's true. Look at Royce City. Royce City has basically sold itself to the highest bidder. And I think on the next show, one of the next shows, I've been keeping some of the letters to the editors from that have been submitted to the Rockwall Herald Banner from people in Royce City. And I'm going to read some of them, because what is happening in Royce City is our future if we allow the liberal left to take control of our city. And they only need one vote. One vote. That's all they need. Don't forget that if Lorna Kippett and Trudy Wassner are elected, Sonoma Verde will have, even though you're the largest voting bloc, you will have no voice, even though you have the mayor who lives in Sonoma Verde. Why is that? Well, because Chisholm Crossing will have an absolute control over the city council. That's because they'll have three people, Jim Bloom, Trudy Wassner, and Lorna Kippett, who live in Chisholm Crossing. That's one neighborhood who has absolute control. So that's a reality that no one wants to talk about. All of this adds up to a group of candidates who are backed by people who have demonstrated by their actions that they have no regard, none whatsoever, for the rule of law, that they have no regard for what most people moved to McLean and Chisholm say, which is, and I don't have the surveys over there, but in the city survey, and the thing that you have to remember is what do you want for your future? I realize that there are some of you who do want more development. You do want to see more businesses. Okay, you know what? I respect your point of view. And that's how we should be differing. We should say, you should be able to say, you know what? This is what I want. This is what I think is best for our city. And I respect that point of view. And if you can express that in an honest way, then I will respect your point of view. And as I have with everyone who has shared it, where I get off track with those of you who are liberal is when you lie, which is what the candidates are doing by presenting themselves as conservatives. Look, I would have a lot more respect for these candidates if they would just say what they really believe. And that really is another question for those of you who are liberal. So my question is this: are you supporting Lorna Kippett, William Dahl, and Trudy Wassner because they're true wolves in sheep's clothing, because you recognize that what I'm saying is true, that they are liberals? My question is, why are you okay with them lying about it? Why is integrity not important to you? I have liberal friends who have integrity, who stand on the conviction of their belief, and they don't have to lie to do it. Why would you support people like that? I certainly wouldn't. And just because you're liberal doesn't mean, and I don't demonize liberals because we just happen to disagree. I believe that we can disagree amicably, as I do with so many. Let's just understand that if the things that I talked about and am talking about in this show are important to you, if the values that we're focusing on in this show are important to you, then there's only the only candidates that, in my opinion, you can support would be David Day for place 1, Scott Turnbull for place 3, and Adrian Balcom for place 5. Now, that's it. That's what I have to share with you today. I also want to share with you that today at 1:00, candidate, the current Mayor Pro Tem Scott Turnbull is going to be doing his own live show, and I would encourage you. I've got a link to it on this YouTube site, and I would encourage you to come to it's going to be on the Citizen's Voice, I believe is what he's doing it on. He emailed me this morning to let me know that he was doing that, and I'm glad to promote that. I'm glad to let you know, and so that you can hear from Scott Turnbull himself. Scott is a numbers guy, and you're going to learn a lot, I suspect, about the facts behind what Mrs. Wassner his opponent is espousing versus what is absolutely true. And the thing I know about Scott, and the thing that has always driven me a little bit crazy, even when I was mayor, about him, is he's such a stickler for details. And so, because we need people like that, and thanks to him, he was able to help guide me and the council to really look at financial issues in a different way, and make sure that we're being challenged by them, that our rhetoric matches our actions. And so what you'll learn, I suspect, I don't know, I haven't seen what Scott's going to do today, but I suspect that you're going to see Scott present some pretty fascinating facts. So I do encourage you to join then at 1 o'clock, and until then, I will see you tomorrow, and thanks for being with me today. I hope that you have a blessed day and enjoy the beautiful weather. We'll see you tomorrow.